Nyayo Stadium and the Kasarani Stadium are always under repair. Always under repair. Kenya famously doesn't have money. We don't have money for anything. If your president has never stayed in a stadium, this government is obsessed with construction, and those constructions never come to an end. More we build those stadiums because more used to go to a stadium. I remember growing up when Harambee Stars used to play, we all waited for Moi to come so that we don't pay entrance. Last term, I was not a member of parliament, but I was still the Secretary General of ODM, the largest political party in Kenya by volume. And we have members of parliament in both houses. So I sat down with one of the members of parliament. He was then a member of the sports committee in the National Assembly. Do you know, we proposed amendments to the Sports Act. We say you need to allow sports organizations to register in a different way as companies so that somebody can say Nairobi City Thunder is owned by Sifuna. I have 100 shares and I can buy this organization. I can get these sponsors. I can get equity. I can do all these things for me to grow my sporting organization. It was shot down in the National Assembly. That amendment was defeated in the National Assembly. When I met Drew, I told him, I am willing to try again. Now I'm in the Senate. We propose very good laws in the Senate. But there is an habit in the Senate that the National Assembly is where Senate ideas go to die. For instance, now I have an amendment to the Sports Act to require that county governments, like Nairobi City County, must allocate a minimum of 1% of the money that we set them to support registered sporting associations in Nairobi, so that every time they have a tournament, they don't go to take a look. They actually come to us with a begging board every single time. You need 100,000 shillings for the team to rent a venue, or to pay coaches, or to even travel, or even to eat. You know, it doesn't make any sense. And you go through Nairobi County's budget, not a single shilling is allocated to these sporting associations. Now, unfortunately, after I have convinced my colleagues in the Senate, and we have passed the bill, which we have done, it goes to the National Assembly. Now, the National Assembly has all sorts of beef with the Senate. All sorts of beef, and they take it a bit. Those guys are hostage takers. They will hold the entire country hostage until they get what they want. And I'm not afraid of them. I know, I have said this public, like this fight they have over the national government, CDF, they will do anything. They will even refuse to pass county allocations until they get their CDF. That is how bad it is. So we send our ideas there because the law requires that it passes in both houses. They will kill it there. I'm expecting my bill to die, not because it's a bad idea, but it is because it's a National Assembly, you know? So if we don't do these two things, and I'm praying to God, you know, this country is not going to change if we don't change. I am telling you the truth. You cannot replace passion. If your president has never stepped in a stadium to watch a game of his own country play, you're not going to convince that guy that sports can actually work. If he wasn't at Nyayo, but I was there. And we were all like, oh yeah. Finally, somebody watched the sport ball and decided after we can have performances at Nyayo. You know, you cannot replace passion. So, can we agree, those of you who are here, first of all, if you don't vote, it's a big problem. Secondly, passion matters. If people are not passionate about things, more we build those stadiums because more used to go to a stadium. I remember growing up when Harambee Stars used to play, we all waited for Moi to come so that we don't pay entrance. It's true. He would get to the stadium, those who have paid, then he say, Sasa, wacheni wanaishi waingie. Those wanaishi were us guys. We didn't have the money to pay. And he built those facilities for us. So these two amendments, I have spoken to Drew. I've told him I am willing to try again to bring those amendments, to resurrect those amendments. Let us change the regime of registration of sporting associations. It will be very easy for American money to come and invest in Kenyan sports. I think the people sitting in parliament, do you know, they imposed a taxation on sports betting. And because they did not know the potential of sports betting, they said all the money that is going to be collected as taxation from sports betting is going to build sports infrastructure. That was the original idea of the sporting fund. we were supposed to have all these facilities that he's talking about in all the 290 constituencies until the money came in. And then these guys realized we are struggling to do all these other things, and there is this man here sitting called Sports Fund. They wrote an amendment to introduce clauses that says 60% of the sports fund, the money that is realized from sports gambling, is now used for something called universal health care. That is where we lost it. Because those old mates sitting there in parliament also better. And this is why I get very annoyed by these woke people who don't run for election. Because 90% of the people in that parliament, if you went and asked, okay, how many of you know who won the Super Bowl this year? What do you think would be the response? Correct. They had no idea this is the biggest sporting event. If you ask somebody like, I don't want to mention names, what is Coachella, for instance? What is Coachella? What do you think the response would be if we were discussing Coachella and he said it? That's what I'm saying. That is what they will be asked. So they need to visualize. And my biggest problem is that until they see it, most of them cannot envision it. I'm sorry for the things that you're going through, but I'm telling you, if we don't change the people in power, there's nothing that is going to change. They need to be able to appreciate these things. The second thing, this is my first time in parliament, by the way. In the previous parliament, we had a conversation. If you look at the Sports Act of Kenya, nobody is going to put money in an enterprise, Carl, that they do not control. It is not possible. The reason why you commercialize sport in the US is because people own those teams. Now, in Kenya, it is, everybody in this country knows, it is just plain and obvious corruption. There is no other way to call it. It's not gatekeeping, it's called corruption. Let's call it by its name. And I think we have administrations in place that are serious about that. It's going to be very difficult. And it has a correlation to how investors think. If an investor knows that the dispute resolution mechanisms in your country are so tenuous that somebody can easily bribe a judge to lose your entire investment because, they have been given some amount of money, nobody is going to put any investment here. Sometimes you hear, contracts have been entered into and they say the arbitration shall be done in that. Why do they insist on those clauses? Because they know that the dispute resolution infrastructure in the country is very tenuous. People don't feel like they can protect the investment. If you put $100 billion or $1 million in that investment, and then somebody just wakes up and grabs the land, says Vijana, says it, Shabahet. I mean, there's nobody who's going to put money in an environment such as that. That Sifia Sport, she's from Athletic, and if she was at EAPL, she knows I give those guys free advertising. I think everybody in Kenya knows what I drink. I accept the Pepsi. And it's about the experience where everybody knows. I'm not going to spend my money and then have a sort of shitty experience that she's talking about. I don't know if you are at EABL with Safari Service that there's some genius decided that they were going to move it from Gomod and Broadview to their Stadia post speed numbers. We were having fun on Gomod. We were used to our problems on Gomod. Then somebody decided, let's try it Kazarak. It's died because of fun experience. I have been lucky in my life. I've seen sports Stadia, and it's not at the Kenya only. It's an entire thing. It's how you manage traffic. Is there water facility? How are the loose? Those of us who stay on the road going to pass up sevens have experiences to share. I have and those problems are not here alone. I was at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York to watch tennis, and you cannot compare the stadium in the tennis stadium in Arthur Ashe and the experience at no. There is the stadium went for the Rugby World Cup in 23. It's called yes. Immediately the game ends. The way the people have evacuated from the stadium, and the Stanley Franks is very different. You go to Arthur Ashe and all of you leave the stadium at the same time. You're all waiting for Ubers. You're standing there for hours and hours waiting for a car. So that entire experience, it convinces people whether they're going to attend a function or not. The reason why Nyayo empties so quickly is because it is near town and people just walk. They go mine, they see band, it's just sing and going to town and the people taste their matatu. But if you're going to take us to Mbong Road, have you put the commensurate infrastructure for us to be able to evacuate people quickly from the bay? Thirdly, there was the question on the taxation of sports equipment and sports scholarships. Now, the Senate has no powers to legislate taxation. And this is the reason why there's going to be a conversation that I'm going to involve him as Kenyans. We want a constitutional amendment to give the Senate powers to discuss money. Because we feel that we are more reasonable. Don't tell them that I said we feel that we are more reasonable in the Senate and in the National Assembly. They are proposing amendments to the Constitution to give themselves this CDF fund, and they have thrown in something called the Senate Oversight Fund. They thought they were going to hook us on that. We want serious constitutional changes. I can say here for a fact that I don't want that money. I don't want the Senate Oversight Fund. I want to be able to legislate and to be able to be in a position where people don't easily veto ideas that are originated from the Senate. So, unfortunately for you, you have to call your member of parliament, the National Assembly, on questions of taxation. It's ridiculous. People give you donations for sports equipment that you actually need, and you put embargo of the embargo to ensure that it doesn't reach the people who need it. And then Nick, basic on government support for private facilities, it's going to be very difficult, Nick, because Kenya famously doesn't have money. We don't have money for anything, by the way. So by the time they're coming to help you, you'll be asked, wale watoto wajienda shule, we don't have medicine in our hospitals, and so on and so forth. So it is great. You are on your own. That's what I was saying. Which one have I left out? Because I'm running very fast. And sports scholarships, again, I don't discuss money. I wish I could. I wish I had those powers, and I'd be coming to you in a referendum to give me those powers.
Anyone who's been to the Nyayo National Stadium, to the basketball gymnasium, will tell you it's horrific. Go to the Kasarani Stadium. It's, the aquatic space. It's not usable, and all these other facilities are run out. So why are we building such a huge stadium while we can't maintain what we already have? I mean, it's really crazy.
Yeah, but I just want to make it clear that I must speak for government. The straight answer, you remember the current president, I think when he was campaigning for the second term of Jubilee, right? Yes, the famous Kamarin Stadium and all the others. Whose role it is? I sit on the Senate Public Accounts Committee. We visited the stadium recently, it is true. This government is obsessed with construction, and those constructions never come to an end. Because that is where the money is. That is where the money is. They will build for you things you don't need. You have the governor of Bakwedi appears before our committee. It tells us they are forcing it to build what they call county irrigation and industrial parks, which do not work from Bakwedi. But the national government has a contractor who has already agreed with whoever it is there that Yamudi Umi. The thing has to be built. You have read in the newspapers of a market that is being built right next to another one that has stalled. Because for them it is about the building. Whether it is a functional thing or whether you need it at all, that is not the problem. You see them every day here at the med site for the Rikuru slum orthopedic project. Give it 2 to 3 months. You will hear the stories from home. So we are, unfortunately, not a very serious people. And it will take a lot. It will take a lot. We need to change a lot of things in our country. We need to actively pursue corrupt people. If you look at those contracts in those stadiums, people have been paid, contractors have been paid upwards of 70-80% of the contract price. One of the pesa, they are kicked out, another one comes, he is given another set of resources to build, and then it just is a fight. Lastly, the Nyayo Stadium and the Kasarani Stadium are always under repair. Always under repair. One time we had to host, was it the Kenya 15 stars who had qualified for the World Cup? And we were taken to the Ulinzi Stadium, where every 5 minutes, because it is right under the busiest airport in Africa, there is a plane landing. So every 3 minutes, and it's such a distraction. So Ababu was still the CS for sports there.
Is this big?
And I asked him, why is it not possible for someone to develop a schedule for repairs that will ensure that one stadium is always available? Can you believe it? No one in government can do that. That you schedule repairs for Nyayo such that Kasarani is open for us to host games. We were very disappointed as Kenya football fans. We are playing, I will cost the Africa champions in Malawi. Yeah, for the fans, it's very painful, you know. So I don't know what I can say, but we have many concepts to discuss, and the solutions are going to be with you. Finally, on Talanta Stadia, I agree with you, maybe it is an expensive project and so on and so forth, but we need that infrastructure. Whether it is sustainable or not is another discussion. But at least we have a facility. It's a private facility. They're not using taxpayers' money, at least officially. It is a PPP model. That's what I've been told as represented. It is a PPP model. That's the only reason that thing is being built. Otherwise, it will look like Kamari. The only reason this expressway was built is because it is private money, and you need to understand this. So,
We'll discuss it another day.
Yeah, it is a private facility, and the investor will recover his investment the same way Umoja Expressway is recovering their investment. So I think I'm going to stop there, and thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
I hope, and then finally, I hope I'm not painted a very grim picture, but it is better to know what is ailing you so that we can all work on it. Otherwise, if you go to the doctor and tell him it's just a headache, and healing, unapewa dawa na see you. Asante sana.